I've got my slide queued up. I'll present, I guess.
Perfect. So if Sai has something to say, like it's welcome, but if not, you can start.
No, you are the host, so please.
No, you can start. Go ahead. And thank you so much for your time today.
Okay, hold on. Let me go into my slides. Just take a minute here. Okay, can you all see my slides now? Or not yet? Okay, hold on a second.
We can see your screen. Perfect. And I'll start the recording so you can start.
Recording in progress.
Great. You still see my slides, right?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Just want to make sure. I want to get this into the slideshow mode, which I think it is now. Right, Andrea?
Yes, we can see them perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, good morning to Andrea, I think. And as I look into the participant list, looks like everybody is from South Asia. So good evening, everybody. I'm very excited to be here with you all and share some of my experiences in my professional world. These are by no means advice or dictum or ask. It's just the experiences I have gone through over the 2.5 to 3 decades working with these high-tech companies and global companies and just reflecting on what I have learned, right? So it's more to, give you a platform and a base to think through as we look at the technology world. Because if you look at the title that's on your screen, it says building a career in technology. So first caveat, clarification, I'm not a technical person. I'm somebody who has been in a lot of functions, but my predominant experience has been as a HR business partner, executive, partnering with these executives. Let's focus it on Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell at the three companies that I worked, and I'll focus on that. And there'll be 2 points of views, if you will. And Andrea and Sai, please jump in if you think I'm deviating or you can't hear me or anything. So feel free to interrupt. But coming back to what I was saying, so there are 2 parts to it. One is think of Microsoft, Cisco, EMC, and then the merger with Dell, how it pivoted in its technology aspects, in how the technology evolved, and what did I do? I mean, in that scenario. So over the next whatever, I think I've got 30 minutes or maybe less now that we started a little late. Maybe 25 minutes or so. Will hopefully give you a perspective of the technology part of it, in my experience, and hopefully at the end of it, when we go into the Q&A, you will have something to take away in terms of what does it mean to you, or can you think of something to apply? That would be my big win. So with that, let me go to the next slide. If I can find my cursor. Yep, wonderful. So read the line on the slide. Leadership begins when certainty ends. Now, just reflect. This basically is about the leadership part of it, right? This line has stayed with me, and we'll talk about it as we go through it, why this line is so important. And I think you can um, you can probably identify with this line. So I talked about the journey, Microsoft, Cisco, EMC, and Dell. Microsoft timeline very quickly. Now I'll move through quickly. I've spent 4 minutes doing this. Microsoft was 1999. I joined. I was there for 9 years. Then I moved to Cisco, was 2008. And just to recalibrate and refocus, 2008, H2, second half, we had the whole thing exploded, the subprime and the recession happened and all of that. And then EMC, I joined in 2011, left them till about 2021. And the merger happened, the EMC and Dell, one of the largest merger happened in 2016. And it was at that time considered one of the largest in the history of IT. So that's kind of the backdrop of what I'm going to talk about, right? So moving on, 1999. Let me take you back. Microsoft was a powerhouse, right? Windows, Office, SQL, but it was also at that time facing a lot of pressure. If you remember, the U.S. Department of Justice was pursuing an antitrust case. The dot-com was raising and it subsequently bust as well. The culture was extremely innovative, brilliant people, very fast, sharp, sometimes a bit wild. My brief when I joined in 1999, the GM had a single line for me in my hiring, the last hiring interview as a hiring manager. He was my primary client and said, hire the best and help us build for the future. That's it. No playbook, no roadmap, no strategy, nothing. I'm sure they had a strategy, but as far as I was concerned, as a HR leader for the country, India country, nothing. So I started listening to business leaders in Redmond, Seattle, become clear that Microsoft wanted to move from being a purely product company in the consumer space to become a mature enterprise organization. That meant creating structure around the chaos, stronger people process, better leadership capability, and a customer first mindset. Now, just remember in the backdrop why it's so important, because they were full of innovative engineers, brilliant engineers. They were more focused on the technology and developing products. And all of this was something which happened by chance. And these, by the way, I don't profess this to be a Microsoft statement. This is my experience. So take that with that pinch of salt. And then came the real turning point, as far as I'm concerned, because Steve Ballmer, the CEO, then he had not become the CEO until 2000 sometime, the H1. And he approved the first ever technical support center outside of US to be set up in India, and that too in Bangalore. I, another gentleman from the business side, volunteered to set it up. And there are two things he gave us. He gave us a small number of headcount and said that I cannot afford to have a drop more than plus minus 5% in my customer set. Just do it quickly and do it fast. Do it fast, sorry. And that chaos that ensued after that is totally, I don't know how to say it, is unimaginable. It was intense. For example, how do we hire people? How do we go to the engineers and tell them that, this is a deep technical support, and come join one of the most innovative and the world's admired companies. So all of that, long story short, we did a lot of activities in order to do that between 2000 till about 2003 when it started to go live. And all the confusion that ensued, I think one of the takeaways keep your head while everything around is changing slash exploding. So that's the takeaway from Microsoft. That speed of the change. Imagine the structure changing, the good chaos becoming a structure and becoming an enterprise company. Moving along. Um, 1 second. Why does it go? Yep. So this is what I mean by the cowboys culture of incredibly bright engineers who worked like lone cowboys. They were fast, bold, highly individualistic. That culture needed to be changed. If you remember, and some of you might have heard about the whole stack ranking, which Microsoft subsequently did away with it. And so this was that promoted the whole individualistic culture as well. And then Steve Ballmer became the CEO at that point, and that was a pivotal point because Steve took it and said, "Let's put the structure, the operational rigor," and the reviews were brutal because he would do a business review in which he would sit and go into the last line item. And I can talk about it later, but the rigor was phenomenal. Steve Ballmer is a gentleman, and so would be his leaders who can go from $20 billion top line right down to the customer segment map of what does India or Asia's customer segment means, and what does it, how many shipments are there, what do they do? Because remember, that was a consumer company, which was then at that time transitioning to become an enterprise company. And at that time, the vision also changed. A computer in every desk, every home, every work, into the whole aspect of computing and anywhere, anytime, any device, work, as well as, one of the things they added to that vision was realize businesses and people's potential. So that was a big, big change in terms of how it became a customer-driven company with all the technology changes, from the consumers to become an enterprise company. And there were some failures as well. The whole mobile phone business and Zoom and all of that didn't really quite take off. But that computing anytime, anywhere led to Azure, actually, if you really look at it. And in India, we were at that time doing some of the work in that whole touch aspect of it back then in 2004, which went on to lead all the things that you saw, Surface and all of that, right? So moving along, I joined Cisco in 2008. Guess what? 2008 is when that whole subprime crisis happened. But I joined in March, and at that time, BRICS, BRICS, which was Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa was subsequently added. It had a huge potential, not just in terms of the growth of a business overall, but in terms of the business for Cisco. And remember, Cisco was at that time selling routers, switches, to the data house, and they had a box mentality, and they would go and look at how do you transform a business from a point of view of a product. At that time, Cisco pivoted from that hardware and how do I say it, box mentality, with all due respects, to become a software powerhouse. And that is when the whole aspect of smart connected communities initiative began. And the other thing that happened, and which I was part of, was the whole emerging market. Remember, the emerging market was a territory. I became the HR director for that back then. If you visualize the world map, it was LATAM, Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Russia. Just imagine the swath. On a side note, that actually had 23 time zones for us to meet and do business. So there are times I would get up at 5 in the morning because Asia would be up, and there'll be times when I'll be working late. So basically, you worked around the clock and you went and played golf during the daytime because business is conducted as and when needed. Nobody's clocking you in and out. And that required a different kind of a culture, right? So we started to work on that part of it in terms of how do you take this disparate, just you still have that, right? Stay with me. You have that globe in mind, the disparate geographies. How do you integrate them? How do you make it a cohesive organization and structure of people to go and deliver businesses and solutions to the customers, right? So we actually used a little bit of theory. We used the Gilbert's model, which basically had the strategy, structure, people, process, and rewards. We used that model to guide us through that change management. We went through all the way from the strategy, which was nothing but how do you graduate from software to, hardware to software? How do you graduate from selling these disparate, not disparate, but different products to a unified solutions, which actually drove business results for the customers, right? So we call them at that time connected communities, right? So we started that, and then when we were like, this was 2008, the dot-com burst, and everything was very different. And then Cisco was trying to figure out how do we ensure that we don't get hit by these other issues that we were facing from the recession. And one second, somebody needs to be admitted. Okay, so we went about doing that, and the key thing that came away was, long story short, was you cannot have a vision without structure, because vision is just aspiration unless you have the structure. And then you follow it up with appropriate processes on different fronts. And then you look after the people to be able to figure out how do you fit them into the structure. And that's how this change happened. We even reimagined the whole compensation, because you remember, while compensation is not necessarily something that basically solves everything, but it also drives certain behavior. And we had to pivot from selling boxes to selling solutions, selling, business results. And you needed a very different methodology to do that. And we did that. And if you really look at the change needs courage and design, that's the point. You need the leaders and the people to follow, to understand the vision, step into it, see the success, and move on and replicate it, right? So that's my segue into the next one. One second. I'm sorry, there's a lag on my laptop. So yeah, we talked about the simple idea of becoming a global organization model, and the structure and all of that. Then came EMC. I'll go through it quickly and maybe have questions so that we can talk about it in our Q&A for the 30 minutes. So this is EMC. I joined in 2011. There was a one-line brief, and said we had about 2,400 people back then, and said we are going to double our headcount. Remember, 2,300, going to double our headcount. Help us do it. And on the backdrop, there was this globalization effort which was going on across the company, because the idea of having these disparate development centers for EMC globally, we had some in China, a little bit in Ireland, but by far, India, I think, was one of the largest back then, with about 2,300 people. It comprised primarily of engineering people, because it had come through a couple of mergers, and we are experimenting with services, the global services, or if you think of it in a simplistic way, the post-sales support. If you were selling a storage box, how do you then implement it in the data center and then You would go and sit at the customer and ensure that they migrate that data and make sure it's secure and all of that stuff, right? So we started to work on that, and we said we will ensure that one thing is very clear. We will again not sacrifice customers. We will ensure that the teams operate as a seamless teams in a distributed fashion across, because EMC was basically a East Coast company, a Boston-based company, and it had through its acquisition a lot of people in the West Coast as well through various acquisition. How do you do that? So some of the things, long story short, was we created leadership program to coach people to become from managers to general managers, from architect to product managers, from software engineering managers to general manager of products, right? So how do you do that? So we started to look at courses and worked with various B schools, and we started to do all of that. But before I went there, I think one of the key things I think I should have told you before, when we said we'll double 2,300 to 4,600, I didn't go about hiring people. I started to build capability, because you need to look at how does the organization have the infrastructure to be able to grow. So one of the first things I did was look at the whole HR team and built all of that going forward. And give me a second. Somebody's pinging me. 1 second. I'm so sorry. So let me take that out of the way. Yeah. So how do you I lost my chain of thoughts, but yeah. So that's I started to build my HR team, the TA, the HR VP. One of the key things was, how do you go from hiring 200 people a month to 1,500? You can't generally put on a switch, change the gear of the car and go. So, but you need to be able to ensure that it's scalable. For example, on one hand, you would be hiring people who are deep tech. On the other hand, you will have people who are working for shared services or IT command center, very different profile. How do you scale it? How do you build it up? And all of that. So we started to build on that and put all the structures. Then we started to look at the managers to general managers, the engineering managers to general managers of products, and how do you develop the architects into distinguished engineer and so on and so forth. And there is a lot of results that I can talk about at some point in time over another fireplace or something. And then in 2016, the Dell acquisition came, because Dell paid $67 billion. Remember, $67 billion. It's one of the largest. I think there has been only one merger which has been bigger than that so far that I know from 2016. And everything changed, because Dell is basically an operationally focused company, right? And EMC was a very, very focused and entrepreneurial one, which is very product focused. And it was also doing its own transition from storage to becoming a software company. And there were a lot of things where they were trying to develop. So $67 billion operational company, Dell buying an entrepreneurial and a software company. And then how do you do that? One of the things that was very clear, I think I put it out, clarity, communication, and empathy, because when a big merger like this happens, because after the merger, I think that we EMC at that time, don't quote me with these numbers because I'm on being recorded. We had about 30,000 people. Dell had about 120 or 115,000 people. Together, it was 150,000 people. You're talking about a $67 billion, and you're talking about 60, $70 billion in turnover, because EMC at that time was 25 billion, right? So how do you bring this together? I think one of the key things I would talk about is you need clarity over certainty, because we as leaders may not know for certain what exactly will happen, but we can give that clarity to people, number one. Number two, we need empathy in execution. We might be doing good things, you might be doing tough things, and let's call it, there are some bad things that happen, right? Because the company gets restructured and people, you know, let's be honest, lose jobs, and there are people who were doing large projects suddenly get skilled because it just doesn't align. But you need empathy, you need respect for the people, you need to be able to do that, right? In times of massive change, that's the line that's on the slide, which says, you know, people don't fear change, they fear loss. If you can have clarity, if you can communicate consistently, you can have empathy, you would have done the job. Now that's moving along. What's in it for you all, right? So if you look at where we are today with AI, automation, and constant disruption, these three lessons feel more relevant than ever, right? Change isn't new. It's just faster. It's faster. It's better. It just comes at you at consistently. It just keeps coming at you, and the technology cycles are also getting shorter, right? So if you really look at, you know, what was, if you look at companies which were there 15 years back, some of them or most of them are not there. I don't remember the statistics right now. It's coming faster. It's reshaping, new skills emerging, and every 6 months, what you probably were relevant 6 months back may not be today, right? So the third thing the second thing is build people before you build scale, because any of the companies that I have seen, from Microsoft to Dell, people, these are the leaders who invested early in building capability. As AI and automation take more routine work, the premium shifts to uniquely human capabilities, empathy, creativity, judgment, and collaboration. Those are what make technology useful, not just, not just, you know, the whole uh, technology evolution, right? And the third thing, curiosity. I always say, you know, people say nowadays, you know, there is a big famous thing, you know, AI will take jobs. My answer is no. People who use AI will take jobs from people who don't. As simple as that. So stay curious, stay open, and keep learning. That's the only job security that you have. You have to rejuvenate. You have to, you know, to be able to, you know, stay ahead of it. You have to embrace change and do it in a way that helps you grow, helps you learn new things as fast or faster than what the technology is evolving at. So I started with, you know, leadership is when certainty ends, leadership arrives. It happens, the change happens in the middle, because when I say messy middle, I mean there is a current state and there is a future state. But when you go from current state to future state, there is that messy middle. And leadership doesn't arrive when it's done. Leadership is there throughout. So you as a leader need to be able to understand that and ensure that you work on all fronts, like we talked about. Let me go back to that slide because I think that's important, right? So you need to be able to curious. You need to learn. You need to understand, build people before you build scale, because some of will say, well, I don't lead teams. How do I do it? Well, it's about thought leadership. It's about you having that capability. And that's what the second point is about. And you need to stay ahead. You need to use it. That's what I said. AI will not take jobs. If you are using it, you know what it is, you are ahead of it, right? So I think these are my takeaway slides. I would like to emphasize, and Sai or Andrea, I'm sure they will share this slide with you. And so technology changes fast, but the only thing is about which will stay constant, has stayed constant in the past and will stay constant, is is about leadership. It's about how you manage it, how you stay on top of it. So leadership endures, right? So with that, I think I burned through all my 30 minutes. I will hand it back to Andrea or Sai. I don't know who's doing this, but I think we have a next segment of 30 minutes of Q&A, if you will. So all yours, Sai or Andrea, how do you want to do that?
Yeah, so thank you so much, sir. Actually, this was definitely an insightful session. So actually, I got a lot of learnings from Debashis sir's session. So he actually covered three main things. So the key three takeaways that I had is that, like, we need to stay curious, and also we need to build people before we build the scalability, and also we always need to be ahead when everything ships. So this is what is the key, three key things. And he was also explaining about the three key scenarios. So we have like Microsoft. So Microsoft is actually having the culture, the frequent culture of actually shifting towards everything, shifting ahead of what are the necessities in the world. So they actually embrace the rapid change. So, and also like he explained some of the things like having a customer centric and solution first mindset in the world, in the emerging technological era. And also he also explained about the cowboys culture, Cisco. So in that he actually explained about employee management, and also like how decisions can make a key role. And also he was explaining about the Dell EMC culture. So this is actually like scaling. So three main things. So this I had so like considering time constraints, so we'll definitely move on with the Q&A session. So we already have two of them. So Shreya Mishra, you can start with your question.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Shreya.
Hello, sir. Nice to have you here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your wonderful session. I have a few questions for you. If you give me the permission, should I continue?
Sure, please. I'm just looking for a pen to write down. Yep, go ahead, Shreya.
Okay. So the first question, which would be mine, is what is the piece of advice, as you have worked in the industry, in the management field related to tech industries, what is the piece of advice would you give to the younger generation or your younger self if you have to start it again? What's the piece of advice you would give to start and your first job and to reach as such position as you are right now?
Yeah. So my younger self, what would I give? I think so. I put this right. So I want to read that right. You need to
Sure.
stay ahead. You need to, people, technology will shift, and if the cycles are shorter. What used to take 10 years to evolve now happens in months and all, right? For example, in Cisco, one of the things was how do you migrate a data center, right? Or even EMC. Let's talk about that. You disappeared from my video actually, but yeah, that's okay. So how do you do that quicker and faster, right? And how do you build people before you scale, and how do you curiosity keeps you relevant, right? So that's this thing. But if I go back, one of the things I would tell myself, my younger self, is be intentional, right? So I don't think I talked about it so much explicitly. Be intentional about what you want to do. Dream big. Dream big, right? Yeah, now you're back. So yeah, so dream, and always dream, because my fundamentally this is not spiritual, but this is more about, if you dream, then you figure out a way to get there. Now this is little softer, but you got to dream, and you got to dream big. to be able to do that. It's like you need the destination to be not something that you can reach. It has to be bigger than that. And then you work out, I'm a car guy, right? So Shreya, so I'm sorry, but I'll give you a car analogy. So you get in a car and you figure out how you want to get to your destination, except that destination has to be far enough. And then you can decide what speed, what car, which highway you have to take, what speed you will drive, and things like that. Just think of that similarly, right? So if you dream big and figure out a way intentionally, the initial ones, that is one of the big things. I don't think I did that. It's just that I was caught up with my first job was a software company. I ended up with Microsoft, long story short. And then I told you my story, right? So every time I joined, I would be given a, we need to hire fast, build it. Then Cisco, we have this big territory. Nobody knew how to work in that emerging territory, remember? Emerging theater, emerging markets. So how do you then, people actually, my mentors and said, look, be careful. You don't even know how this works. Nobody's done it. But you got to take that leap and then leap of faith. But if you rely on that luck, it won't happen. Luck comes with a lot of hard work, a lot of structure, a lot of focus. So be intentional is what I would say if I were to summarize everything I just said, other than what's on the slide, because I moved the slide back because I think that's a good backdrop for me to answer. So thank you for the question, Shreya. I hope it answered your question. I'm sure I can't answer everything, but be intentional. I would leave you with that.
Thank you so much, sir. That definitely answered my question. I'll remember it always. Be intentional, dream big, and just have always people backs. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. I can see how to get shortlisted at Microsoft even when I have great profile, target teams match. I don't know, after Shreya, that's the one. But Sai, you tell me which one to pick up. Did I lose you? Andrea?
Yeah, Aisha, you can proceed with your question.
Hello.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yes, you
Hello,
are audible.
sir.
I can't see you, but that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So I'm actually.
That's fine.
So my name is Aisha.
Yeah.
I recently completed my PharmD degree, and I'm from Pakistan, basically. And after completing my degree, and I worked at a couple of organizations. I did my pharmacy internships and stuff, but I realized I was not satisfied with it. I wanted to do something really different, and that's how I stumbled upon consulting. And I see, sir, that you have a lot of you have done a lot of work in the consulting sector. And since I'm from an advanced degree, but since Pakistan is not on that list of, you could say, the target companies like BCG, McKinsey, they do have like a couple of offices, but not many people know about it. So I was hoping if you could give me a couple of pointers on like how to, get into consulting with my non-traditional background, and what about like AI and consulting? Like, what are your views on AI and the consulting world? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. It's not easy to answer, why BCG is not operating in Pakistan, right? So from my personal knowledge, I'll give you examples of why I think there is still a lot of you people who are great people in Pakistan, because there is a friend of mine who runs a sales division in Zones, D Zones, I think it's called. You can look it up. It's a $3 billion company, entrepreneur driven, based in America. And I know that friend of mine who runs a global solutions for, the data centers and so on and so on, and so forth, has a team of 5 engineers out of Pakistan. I don't know exactly where. I won't go there, but they help him build data center migration. So I know there are brilliant people there, but why BCG, PW, or any of the big three or big four, whatever you call it nowadays with all these mergers, are not operating? Something I don't want to go there. But one thing I can tell you something. Remember the circle of influence, right? So, and if you look at an onion, you have all these circles of influence which are around there. It's me, my job, me, my family, my job, the customers, and the whole world, right? The market. I'm saying not whole world. Let's not solve world hunger. The whole world. Think of those circles. Me, my family, I have complete control, right? So think of it that way. What's in your control? Your control is what I love about what you just said. You did your pharmacy, right? So if I get that right, pardon me if I didn't get that right. So, but
Yes, you're
you,
correct.
yeah, and pharmacy, you ended up with consulting, which is great because you didn't wait for that ideal job. You took up consulting, and I think you are intelligent and you did all of that, right? Which is on the slide. You stayed ahead. You build people. You build yourself. You don't have people, and you're curious. And this question itself is curiosity, right? So think of it that way. There are things that in that onion circles that we talked about, you can control. There are things you can't control, right? The outer circle of why industry is operating, why it's not there in Pakistan, we can't control that. But you can control what you can control. Just go do that. Go find another consulting role, which meets with your, remember the dream big and the road that you want to take. We just talked. We'll build on that, right? So you can control that. You can get in that car. You can drive at 60 kilometers. I think you use kilometers as a unit, not miles like here. And you know that you can go south, and you know that if you go 1,000 miles south, you can still get to that BCG kind of a role. It doesn't have to be BCG. BCG doesn't have you, that's their loss, right? So think of it that way, as I would say. I can't answer and give you a solution, but this is what I'll tell you. I don't know if that helps.
Sir, yes, sir, that definitely helps. But if I have like a couple of more questions, can I like reach out to you on LinkedIn or like on some other time, like via email or something?
Sure. Why not? If I can help you, absolutely. That my email is here, and please do.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
so much, sir.
Sai, that's
Definitely.
okay, right? They can reach out to me, and I'm happy to help somebody. That's okay with you, Andrea and Sai, right? So, yeah, I'm doing it for the first time. So I just want to make sure that I don't break any norms that Aspire has. So, yeah, I'm fine so long as Aspire is fine.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we still have a few minutes. Yeah. Who's next? We have some minutes and we can use that. We have 55 people, so thank you for joining. If you guys don't ask me questions, I actually have a FAQ designed with 30 questions. I can ask you questions. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I was preparing and I wrote some questions. So while Sai figures out who's the next one. So 55 of you, thank you for joining. I'm sure there are probably more before I looked at it. I hope it was useful. This is the first time me doing a mentoring. If you want to give me feedback, there's an email in terms of how can I make it better for the next group of people. Please do send me. All feedback welcome, big, good, bad, ugly. Excuse me. So please do that. Any other questions? I can see
Sir,
in the
Yeah,
I'm Prithviraj. Can I ask my question?
Sure. What's your name?
Okay.
Sorry, say that again.
Prithviraj.
Prithviraj. Yeah, you were the Matrix guy. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, I'm also from pharmacy and I am doing learning blockchain and cybersecurity, blockchain from Cifrin and cybersecurity from other sources. So it's irrelevant to my degree, right? So will I get jobs based on my skills, or how insightful can you give me, please?
Honestly, I don't have answers to everything, but I would always say that, you have to be ingenious, you have to be curious, you have to be hungry, and you have to go out there and try. I think human potential is unlimited. That's why we are the species we are here. It's a big statement, but all I'm trying to say is you should stay focused and continue to work on and stay ahead, right? So, and go figure it out. It's not always necessary to be aligned with a degree. Microsoft, I mean, if I may, with all due respect, Bill Gates was a school dropouts, and so was Steve Ballmer. So, and in Microsoft, you always said it's about how you drive yourself and how you be ingenious about going and finding what you want to do. Honestly, beyond that, I can't really answer that question because it's
Sir,
a function.
in your
Remember that onion ring, right? So that's the one I can't control, but I can control what I can do or what I would like to do.
Sir, in your experience as HR, did you ever find any non-technical background guys resume?
Yes, in Microsoft, I still have it. There is a gentleman. I mean, I can quote his name. You will probably find him in the LinkedIn. Uh, I think his name is Pulyapalam Muniraju. He came in as an evangelist in Microsoft in 2000. I remember very clearly. He's somewhere in Seattle, and I think he's still employed with Microsoft. So yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this insightful session.
I like to have one question if it's possible.
Sure. We still have time,
my
right? Until Sai and Andrea shut me down, we have.
okay,
Yes.
yeah. So my name is Faiza. I'm from India. I'm a software developer, and right now I'm trying to transition my career to a bit of an AI side. But uh, say I have not much experience in this particular field. I'm a purely code-based and half functional-based programmer. So going to the AI field or going to a different programming side or a functional side, I have always been asked a question if I have an experience with a particular thing, with a particular role that I am trying to achieve. Okay. So they want us to say what exactly have you learned for this particular role in your previous companies. And I have been very honest about it and I've said that this particular thing I have not done any work professionally from my side. Personally, I have studied a bit of it, but professionally, I have not worked on it much. But there's still a gap that came when we want to achieve some roles which we have not experienced. So how can we bridge that gap?
You know what? I would throw that back at you because I'm not a technical guy. I can't tell you, all the nuances of all the various aspects of programming that we just talked about. When I joined, we used to hire people with C++. Now you're talking about Python, you're talking about LLMs and LM and so on and so forth. So I don't even want to go there. But
Yeah.
if that is the question you're facing again and again, how do you solve
Yes.
it? How do you solve it, right? So remember that circle that I drew? You have to go figure out a sandbox or somewhere you can go and join and you can practice. Is it Udemy? I don't know if they give you that, or is it some other thing. But at the same time, I will caution you: do not necessarily go and, how do I say it? Just sign up for courses, because signing up for courses is not going to help you. Meaning that you go do a master's and you do a postgraduate and you do another master. That's not going to help you. You have to be practical. You have to figure out what your goals are, and you have to do within that sphere to be able to do that. So that's the only thing I would say. Just
As an
remember.
HR,
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
You were in HR, you are in HR, right? So it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
when you review the resumes of a certain roles, there may be a resume which is certainly a freshers, you can say. They may have an experience with a background of different things. As people have said, they want to transition from non-technical to the technical background. Okay, and right now, all recruiters need an experience to, you know, to employ a people. So it's like even if we go forward and do masters or postgraduate, it will still take time and money. Okay, and most don't prefer that. They want to learn skills by themselves, do a small certification, and get a job. Is it still possible to achieve something like that, or we have to go through a circle of education once again?
So that's precisely what I said. Don't go and join a course for the sake of joining, and it will not solve you anything.
Yeah,
First, let me go back to the question. You said, do I, as a HR person or a hiring person or a talent acquisition or a recruiter, shortlist the person? No, let's be honest. You will not get shortlisted for a job where you don't have skill set. That's the blunt answer. That's the reality. But if you want to go there, you need to be able to have some experience or some track record and be proficient in whatever you're doing to be able to do that. There are enough opportunities nowadays. You can find a sandbox, you can talk to people, you can subscribe to various journals, you go sign and join some association and so on and so forth. You need to figure out a way to do that. Nobody will shortlist you, let's be very honest, when you don't have the relevant experience for a job, because end of the day, the company needs to get the job done, right? So um, uh, figure out a way when somebody can bet on your potential, but they will not bet unless you have the core skills to start with. So that's a catch 22. I don't think in my humble opinion, can do that. I'm so sorry.
okay.
I
No,
wish
no,
I
no,
can give
sir.
you a better answer, but
No,
no.
thank you so much.
May I ask a question?
Sure. What's your name?
Marwa Paiman.
Okay, Marwa. I'm trying to look at the participant list and identify who you are, but just go ahead. Yeah, please.
Okay, so Professor, what was my concern that currently I'm a software engineering student, and within 2 years I'm going to be graduated. So I'm really unsure, like for take a career, do I have to focus in this 2 year just learning, or I should go for some jobs or practical works? Like once when I go to find a job, I say no, it's time to learn, because if I do not learn, how can I have a job? But if I do not go for a job or if a real project, these learnings are not efficient. I'm going to forget all of them. Or like, what are your great advice for me to do in this 2 year to find good job after I finished, especially freelancing or doing job online, because where I located, finding in-person job job is somehow difficult.
That's true. That was true 30 years back. That's true. You can't change that. I can't change that. Remember that circle, onion circle that I talked about. And this is a good segment to go to the last question, because we are almost out of time. I can see a hand raised, Pratik and whoever else. There are a bunch of questions out there, but I'll try to summarize everything that we talked about, right? So not everything is an answer for you, but I would say that start with a set of transferable skills and some of the software aspects, problem solving, data analysis, project management, and communication, and so on and so forth. Second, build a technical foundation. Third, I think, which is very important for you, for your question, is practical work is always has a priority and will get a preference than just studying and finishing a course. You have to finish that. There is no two ways to it. There is no shortcut to that. But if you can get an internship, if you can get a small project, you can do it pro bono, you can do it free. So basically, I would say get experience without a job if you can, because that's the biggest one that you can build on as you finish the course that you're doing. And the second thing is network like crazy. I was about to say hell, but that's not a good thing. I'm on camera and being recorded. You rebrand your profile. Go and figure out, how do you say in one sentence? Practice it every day in front of the mirror. How do you say it in few lines of what you are all about and what you want to do?